It started with a birthday drone and ended with a courtroom takedown. When my 12-year-old son Leo was fined $500 for flying his new drone in our own backyard, I knew we weren't just dealing with a petty neighbor we're facing a tyrant in pearls. The HOA president, Madeline Kerr, showed up on my doorstep waving fake legal documents about airspace violations that don't exist in any FAA code. What she didn't realize was that the man she was trying to intimidate had spent the last 15 years helping write those regulations. 6 months earlier, we'd moved to Willow Bend Estates hoping to escape the grief that had swallowed our lives after my wife, Claire, lost her battle with cancer. Leo had been quiet ever since, his spark dimmed. So for his 12th birthday, I got him a drone, nothing fancy, but enough to excite a kid who used to dream about becoming an engineer like his mom. It was the first time he smiled like he used to. He carefully read the manual, double-checked every rotor, and took his time before launching it into the sky. The drone hovered 15 feet up, and for a moment, Leo looked free again. But then it drifted slightly into Madeline Kerr's yard. A breeze knocked over her imported tea set. It was a genuine accident, and Leo was mortified. We immediately went over to apologize. She was already filming the crime scene, screeching about privacy invasions and threatening legal action. I stayed calm and offered to compensate her for the broken items. But when she demanded $2,000 and accused my son of spying on her, I knew this wasn't about ceramics. The next morning, an HOA notice arrived with a $500 fine and a citation of FAA Regulation 17CA law that doesn't exist. The letter was a fabrication from a fake legal authority. I stared at it, part amused, mostly furious. I wasn't just a homeowner, I was Deputy Director of Legal Affairs at the FAA. Madeline Kerr had picked the wrong father to harass. I began digging. The HOA bylaws were riddled with discrepancies. Entire pages had mismatched fonts and insertions that were clearly doctored. The rules Madeline enforced like bans on drones and swing sets weren't passed by any formal vote. I met with neighbors, including a retired principal named Ruth Martin, who'd been quietly documenting Madeline's reign of terror. Violations for children's sidewalk chalk. Fines for 2 colorful swimsuits. The pattern was clear. She didn't want families here. Leo had taken it hard. I found a note he'd written to Claire in an old email account we kept for him. "Mom, I think I messed everything up. I wish you were here." Reading his words shattered me. That night, I told him we were going to fight back not just for his drone, but for every kid in that neighborhood being taught to stay small and silent. At the HOA disciplinary hearing, Madeline played queen of the room, backed by her silent puppet Greg and board member Lauren Shaw. I wasn't allowed to finish a sentence. Every time I referenced actual FAA guidelines, she cut me off. But I came prepared. When she cited her favorite imaginary law FAA, a 17CI calmly responded, "That regulation doesn't exist. I should know. I wrote the ones that do." The room went quiet. I pointed out that the results of our hearing had already been typed up 3 days earlier. I had a photo to prove it. My son, who had been silently observing with a notebook in hand, gave me a quiet nod. This wasn't just a drone incident anymore. It was about abuse of power. We built our case. With permission from neighbors, Leo used his drone to capture footage of Madeline trespassing, taking unauthorized photos, and enforcing non-existent rules. We launched a website exposing her fake bylaw edits. When word spread, we organized a meeting at Ruth's house. Over 30 neighbors showed up, even with Madeline trying to sabotage the gathering by cutting the power. Leo, ever his mother's son, fired up a battery-powered projector and displayed the footage for all to see. There she was, on tape, stomping through yards and faking evidence. When she burst in screaming about FAA Regulation 17C, I calmly said, "That's the regulation you invented. And this room is full of people who now know the truth." Her face paled. Board member Lauren stood up and called for a vote of no confidence. 78 homeowners signed the petition, more than enough to trigger her removal. That night, someone shattered our window and left a knife in the door with a note, "Stop now or worse will come." The police took it seriously. My friend Brian, the local police chief, assigned patrols and encouraged us to keep documenting everything. Leo's suggestion? Use my test drone with night vision to monitor the ballot drop-off before the vote. He was right. At 3:15 a.m., the drone caught Madeline and a man sneaking into the storage shed, swapping the ballot box for a pre-filled one. Brian arrived with officers just in time to catch them in the act. The man was Madeline's cousin with a criminal record. The footage was crystal clear. The attempted election fraud was undeniable. Still, Madeline wasn't done. She filed an emergency injunction claiming our drone violated her privacy. At the courthouse, her lawyer paraded fake documents. I waited patiently, then stood to speak. Your Honor, FAA Regulation 17C does not exist. I can confirm this as the Deputy Director of Legal Affairs at the Federal Aviation Administration. Gasps rippled across the room. Leo sat up straighter than I'd seen in months. When I played the audio clip of Madeline declaring, "I am the HOA," the judge didn't need more. Injunction denied. Charges filed. Within weeks, Madeline Kerr was removed from office. A forensic audit uncovered over $30,000 in misused HOA funds. She sold her home and disappeared from the neighborhood. One morning, Leo and I found a letter in our mailbox. It was from her, apologizing, not excusing but explaining. She'd been grieving too, she said, angry at the world. I showed it to Leo. She must have been really sad, he said softly. Should we forgive her? That's up to you, I told him. We did, but we didn't forget. A week later, Leo hosted the first meeting of the Willow Bend Drone Club in our backyard. Kids buzzed drones over the trees while parents laughed in lawn chairs. As the sun dipped behind the houses, Leo stood beside me, his drone circling peacefully above us. Dad, he said, I don't need a better drone. I just need to be free to fly. And with everything we'd been through, I finally believed him. The sky wasn't just his playground, it was a reminder that when you understand the rules, you can rise above those who try to twist them.